I've had the pleasure of working with a number of service providers for a number of decades, and we've helped them transition through a number of architectural changes, network deployments throughout the last 2 or 3 decades. And where we find ourselves now is right at the cusp of service providers employing or embracing software-defined networking as part of the overall network architecture. Now, the last decade has been filled with hype around the benefits of software-defined networking, virtualization, etc., what that can bring to bear. We're right at the beginning of the genuine growth stage for the consumption of these types of networks and architectures. And what we'll see now moving forward in the next decade is service providers genuinely embracing these technologies to drive new models around how they consume services from the vendor space and how they remonetize those services and promote that out into the marketplace. The CommScope Cloudtoedge nextgen PON solution is exactly how it's described. It's an overall architecture that goes from the central office right out to the customer premises with all the componentry in between. If we start from the central office area, we have a software-defined PON architecture. We've embraced disaggregation as a network topology of choice, which brings various benefits to customers in terms of their network deployment componentry and how they deploy various pieces of the network through towards the passive parts of the PON, the physical FTTH elements, which actually are the physical points of presence and distribution within the PON architecture, right down to the customer premise equipment. CommScope's uniquely positioned to capitalize on this inflection point in terms of how service providers are consuming new generation of network architectures. From a central office perspective, the PON architecture has been totally decoupled and has been split out into various software elements and decoupled hardware elements. This, in its own right, offers the service provider ultimate flexibility in how next generation CommScope PON architecture is delivered. The basis of this is around open, disaggregated, and non-proprietary solutions, which benefits the customer in multiple ways in terms of legacy integration and new network deployment rollout scenarios, all seamlessly integrated with a common management structure. This is a once-in-a-decade opportunity that we as a vendor can influence network transformation within the service provider space. Building a new network, be it transitionary, is something that needs to be considered quite carefully, as you wouldn't want to go and build a brand new old network and thus crystallize all the problems service providers have been looking to address for the past decade and crystallizing those moving forward into the next decade. So the exciting parts are that we are offering the ability of service providers to really transform the way they consume services from vendors, namely CommScope. Being cloud native in its approach allows for different models to exist, to be developed, and ultimately how we can influence business outcome for our service provider community. We're looking at addressing the 80-20 rule in terms of their expenditure. OpEx has always been a big challenge. What the CommScope Cloudtoedge PON architecture has the potential to deliver is a new OpEx model in terms of consumption, ultimately saving and providing a much better total cost of ownership.